forsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken. Proof I'm better than.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Let's talk about Smackdown from June 17th, 2022. The return of Brock Lesnar. But first, we got to talk about news and notes. Now, there's a substantial amount of news in WWE. Just a lot of stuff. But there's been some small things that have gone under the radar. Such as Ronda Rousey saying that the women's locker room is all cupcakes and hand jobs, which sounds absolutely absurd. I can't believe she said that. I can't believe it didn't get more attention. Of course, Natalya responded to it, and people were like, who's giving out the hand jobs? Of course, it was, she didn't know how to answer that question. Clearly, Ronda Rousey should be a heel. All right. That's just, everybody agrees with that. Ronda should be a heel. She didn't know how to answer that question. I'm pretty sure she doesn't care. I think Natalya said that Ronda has her own locker room, therefore, but she's in character, Natalya's response is in character. I'm guessing Ronda's response was also in character, but that shouldn't be Ronda's character. But it was bizarre, and it went under the radar. Another thing that went under the radar. This Sasha Banks stuff, well, hasn't gone under the radar as much as there has been zero confirmation. I have been doing a countdown on Twitter. Like, I waited 12 hours before my first tweet about Sasha Banks. Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. said that he heard from reliable sources that Sasha Banks was released from WWE. I was like, all right, I'll wait for either Sasha Banks or WWE to announce it. Nothing came within the first 12 hours. Nothing came within the first 24 hours. About maybe 30 hours in, we got WrestleVotes, who says, oh yeah, Raj Giri was accurate. All right, Raj Giri was like, yes, I'm vindicated. I'm like, it's WrestleVotes. Still nothing from WWE. Still nothing from Sasha Banks. Still nothing from her camp. Her Twitter account is still at Sasha Banks WWE. 2 days later, 48 hours afterwards, people are still talking about Sasha Banks being released. People are still talking about Sasha Banks not working in WWE anymore. And I'm like, what on earth? Have we learned nothing? Does the wrestling media never have to prove themselves? We can just believe things that they say just because they said it. It's like, come on, man. Why is nobody? It would be nice just to have somebody either confirm it or not confirm it. That's really all I'm asking for. I really don't care either way at this point. But watching people argue about it on Twitter, or people celebrating and throwing parades as if, Sasha Banks had actually done something, is really bizarre. And having all this stuff go on for 2 or 3 days now just seems a little ludicrous to me. Now, if I upload this video and at some point during my recording of this video and it uploading and it's confirmed, then hey, good for Sasha, I guess. She's going to go wrestle in Japan and maybe wrestle in AEW a little bit. Who knows? I think she'll do just fine. But my response is the same as my response when every time anybody leaves WWE. Show and prove. All right? Just tell everybody, hey, WWE didn't make me, I made them. Okay, cool. Then go ahead and do your thing. Go be whoever she was before. Was it Mercedes XV? KV or whatever? Go do that. And let's see if that works out the same way Sasha Banks did. That's my general opinion on any wrestler who comes into WWE and leaves. Most of the time, 90% of the time, especially since WCW went out of business, WWE has started basically claiming everything that's theirs, which is, the intellectual property. So she's going to have to come up with something completely different. And maybe that's the challenge. Maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have people who leave and they come up with some really good stuff outside of WWE. I mean, look at Cody. Went and created his own thing. It's good for him. Good for Sasha, too. You should always test the waters and go out and do something different. Get a change of scenery. She's been there for a long time. But I'm not about to act like she was some kind of saint. That's the crew doing their thing. But I have zero confirmation time of recording that Sasha Banks has been released from WWE. I've heard every single story that there is possible. Her lawyers are working on it. It's been confirmed by multiple sources. Yet, WWE has said nothing. Sasha Banks' Twitter account still says WWE. As far as I know, her Instagram account still says WWE. She did a clip. She went and got eye surgery because she had bad vision. For starters, people were like, oh, she doesn't have her Sasha Banks hair. I'm like, she doesn't walk around that fucking wig all the time. Come on. It's not like Cody's tattoo. You know, she's not going to walk around in that wig all the time. For Christ's sake, she's suspended. At some point, you got to take the gimmicks off. You know, but she did a short kind of commercial for them under her real name. And she said she used her real name. She didn't use Sasha Banks. And some people have said, like, that's it. And I'm like, well, the people who did her eye surgery asked her because she's a celebrity. They say, hey, you know, endorse us a little bit. Now, in order for Sasha Banks to endorse them, she would have to do it, go through WWE. But, you know, if it's just her and she has none of the Sasha Banks stuff, the voice, the look, nothing like that, which she didn't. She had her hair was brown. She kind of just decided to move on, you know, and go ahead and do it. And it was simple. It was like a minute. It meant nothing, really, in the grand scheme of things as far as affecting business. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have affected business one way or the other. She's already suspended. What more could they do? So here it is, 2 or 3 days after Sasha Banks was supposedly released, secretly released, because this is the one release we're not going to tell everybody about. I mean, you fired Bray Wyatt in the middle of the day on a Saturday. You know, we're not going to tell everybody that Sasha Banks has been released, though, which is odd. But in any event, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think people are being very extra with the whole Sasha Banks is free. Well, I'm sorry, Mercedes Varnado is free. It's like, okay, let me do your thing. You know, I wonder how many of y'all actually believe what you say, though. Wrestlers have a lot of support when they in WWE. That tends to change quite a bit when they go outside of it. But we'll see. Hope maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. I don't know. All right, so Randy Orton is injured. This is according to the dirt sheets. Don't know how true this is, but let's run with it anyway, because, you know, rumors is 90% of what the wrestling media does. Randy Orton apparently is injured and will probably need back surgery, which will make him done for the rest of the year, apparently. This is according to the dirt sheets. Randy Orton not being back for the rest of the year is a huge blow, especially considering he has been, kind of reinvigorated himself in 2020. The pandemic really forced him to work on his promos, and he got really good at promos. His character work really got better. You know, his stuff with Edge was dynamite. Stuff with Drew McIntyre was very good. He found a new stride with Riddle. The stuff with The Fiend was interesting, but, you know, it was the stuff with The Fiend. So it was a lot of character stuff. And the matches weren't particularly good. So the matches weren't great. But, you know, he was creating moments, you know, getting set on fire. He had a fireball thrown in his face. That was cool. So, but back injuries, especially at his age, he's like 40 now. Back injuries, it took the best of them out. Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, Ted DiBiase, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. You know, it's just so many that when the back goes, it's hard to keep going. In some respects, it's harder to keep going with back injuries than it is with a neck injury. You know, Shawn Michaels had to retire for a few years off a back injury. You know, that on back, because you can't lift. Not only can you can't really work out, but you can't lift your opponent either. Now, Ric Flair broke his back. We had to modify his style. You know, maybe Randy will do that. Maybe he'll come back and modify his style. But in any event, that's a tough one, man. I'm not feeling that. That's bad. If he's got to have back surgery, that's not good. You know, we just celebrated 20 years of Randy Orton too. It look like we're not gonna get, He said he wanted to do it until he was 50 or something like that. That's another 10 years. It's not like he's not going to make it. You know, they're probably looking at maybe staring at the end of the barrel of the gun on Randy. And it might be for the best. You know, sometimes things can go on a little long, you know. So maybe, you know, who knows? He might have to bow out early like Ted DiBiase or Rick Rude. You know, who knows? So Cody has had successful surgery, and apparently they recorded his entire process, his surgery, and they're going to be recording his rehab for the big comeback vignettes and documentaries to come. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because I guarantee you 100% this is Cody's idea. I guarantee you 100% this is Cody's idea. Cody has now become a shameless self-promoter. Shameless. Who has a million ideas of how to promote himself. This is a guy who probably got his wife pregnant just so they can do the TV show. This guy. There's nothing. I'm not saying it's like a bad thing. I'm not saying that, by the way. I'm just saying he's taking this thing to, you know, all the bits and pieces that have made wrestlers iconic in the past. You know, seeing people's knees get sliced open and Dr. James Andrews stitching them together, them shaking their hands, the big, what was it? What was it for Seth Rollins? Was it rebuild, reclaim, you know, something? And they did that big thing for him and Triple H, of course, when he came back, and he wants that because that's the big return, you know, that he wants that joint. And I don't blame him. He's going to be sitting on the bench as one of the hottest baby faces around. The question I have, though, because I saw that Big E is no longer having his neck brace, is how are they going to handle that situation? Because Big E's going to get a huge reaction, too, if he comes back at around Royal Rumble. And they're both in it. Big E off of a neck injury, Cody off of a torn pec. And maybe Randy comes back from a back surgery. You could have 3 top baby faces returning within the same time frame, thereabouts, give or take. This is all speculation. I don't know how anybody could be, how far anyone is in their rehab or anything. But the potential is there for, you know, you to bring in Big E or something like that, and he gets a monster reaction. Because people like Big E, and he's been gone for a long time. For Randy to disappear off the face of the planet for several months. Come back as a conquering hero. Same thing with Cody. You would kind of undercut Cody if you do that. So I'm guessing, you know, they'll probably push the other two back, you know, or bring them in under different circumstances. They won't be just Royal Rumbles for everybody. But, you know, that potential is there. Maybe they make, you know, bring one of them back early before the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't do it, but... You know, they seemingly short on top guys. And these are, believe it or not, 3 top guys. You might say Big E doesn't belong in that class. Well, good point. All right, so let's finally get into SmackDown. Vince McMahon comes out there. Vince says basically nothing. That it was all it's good to be in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and said that the WWE signature, then, now, forever, and the most important, together. Welcome everybody to SmackDown. Folks cheered, they clapped, they sang No Chance in Hell. They got a good look at the boss. He looked okay, sounded all right. Didn't seem too concerned about this thing. Flipped the microphone, which was, you know, pretty cocky. Sauntered back, sauntered in, sauntered out. You know, he didn't even Vince McMahon power walk, really. You know, this absolutely forced people to melt online. And we will be talking about that in a separate video. That there was an absolute melt down from all people who were very upset at Vince McMahon for coming out there. And all the gossip sites, I don't even see what you call them journalists anymore. All the gossip sites just lost their minds. They're all, this is what we're hearing backstage. All the anonymous sources and anonymous this and anonymous that, all this stuff. And I want to say one thing, because this has been sitting on my I wanted to save this for something else, but no, I'm just going to say it here. Because why save it? I mean, it's all my same voice, right? What was the last really big story that the wrestling media broke? The last big one. They didn't break the steroid scandal. They didn't break the Ring Boy scandal. They didn't, of course, Pillman, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. They couldn't break any of that stuff because that's when people just found dead. You know? What was the last really big story that the wrestling media broke? I mean, something that came from the wrestling media that mainstream media caught on. Literally, pretty much nothing. There's I've seen so many different allegations and these different things. It's 90% gossip. The wrestling media is a very gossip heavy media. It's not like ESPN. It's not, and that's the weirdest thing. Like one of those wrestling journalists, John Alba, he said when Vince McMahon came out there, just a reminder that in no other sport would this be occurring, that somebody is under investigation and they appears on television. And I say, you know what? I don't know when the last time I even saw the NFL commissioner interact with the game. He only shows up at like the Super Bowl, and that's it, to hand out the trophy. Is he there at every game? He can't be. Vince is there at every fucking Raw and SmackDown. It would be, sure, he probably shouldn't have been there, maybe. But him interacting with the product is far more than the NBA commissioner. I don't think I ever seen. I don't know what that motherfucker looks like. And most of the time, that's kind of how it is. Those people are so far and detached away from the product that most people wouldn't know who they are. If you walked past them in the street, you wouldn't know who he was. This is a different thing. For starters, it's not even a sport. It's a sport in a non-traditional sense, if you want to say an athletic endeavor. But it's predetermined, so it's not really a sport. So it's like, you guys are not sports reporters. You might think you are, but when 90% of the stuff that you post is he said, she said, and breaks no stories, that goes mainstream. I swear to God, I cannot tell you when the last one. They can't even confirm whether somebody works in a place or not. How hard is it to say we reached out to Sasha Banks for confirmation on her release? Her publicist or whatever said no comment, and then we leave it at that. No comment. We got no comment. What we got is anonymous sources are telling us. It's like, no. If you were on ESPN or something like that, you would have said, we reached out to this player, to this team, or whatever, and here's what they said. It would not be, sources are telling me. What fucking sources? Who are you talking about? Is it anybody who's a decision maker? Is it an executive? Do they work in the board? Are they a fucking janitor? Who's telling you this? You're not giving me any fucking information. It's so goddamn frustrating. And this Vince McMahon story has really, 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 I think vindicated my hatred of the wrestling media. They're reactionary. They know everything about this situation now that it's public. Oh, well, we know who heard about it and when. It's like, I don't give a fuck now. I don't give a fuck now. Now we're going to let the mainstream media handle it because you goobers apparently don't know dick from balls. If you were really capable of handling this story, you would have got it. Nobody was interested in giving it to you, Marks, because nobody can trust you idiots. You can't even confirm whether somebody works there or not. Only thing they're good for is retweeting press releases. That's it. WWE released Bray Wyatt, they send you a goddamn press release and you just retweet it. That's all you do. You didn't do any digging to figure that out. And you can't even figure out why. You can't even get the fucking guy on the phone to talk to you about why he got fired. Like, no. How about that, by the way? That you got Bray Wyatt who got fired in the middle of the day on a Saturday. This guy been gone for almost a year. Nobody has gotten him on the phone and say, we talked to Bray Wyatt about his release, and here's what he had to say. It's been, oh, he tweeted something. He changed his social media handle. Like, oh, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. That ain't news. I can see that he changed his fucking Twitter handle. That ain't news. You retweeting goddamn Instagram bikini pictures. That ain't news. If I have eyeballs and I wanted to see this shit, I could find it. The real news is shit I can't get myself. That's the real news. Not some shit WWE sent you so you can retweet it. I got to get this out of my system because I never get through SmackDown with that like on my brain like that. I was never going to get through this show with that. I was never going to get through this show because I've been sitting here 2 days watching every fucking wrestling media dude act like they're the most diligent, intelligent. I know everything. You had this Brandon Thurston. He went on fucking Twitter and was tweeting at the mainstream news, this Vince McMahon story is only as serious as you guys take it. Those of us who follow the McMahons every week, we know things and yada, yada, yada. And this was around the time Meltzer was about to go on CNN, which was an absolute joke, by the way. That's how seriously they took Dave Meltzer. He had like 4 sentences in the whole fucking 4 minutes that he was on there. The 4 minutes they spent on Vince McMahon, fucking Meltzer had probably 2 sentences. That's how seriously they took his expertise on wrestling. And what they did was just repeat what we already knew. But back to Brandon Thurston. Telling the real media, even though they're not really the real media, you get what I'm saying, the mainstream media. Telling these fucking guys that this story is only as serious as you take it. Maybe you should do some more digging or partner up with us. It's like, come on. And I was so glad to see like there were actually fans who followed his Twitter account that was in his responses telling him, like, no disrespect, but you guys aren't fit for this. And that's when I started doing the whole, 12 hours and no confirmation about Sasha Banks. Because this is literally your beat. You should literally be able to find out whether she works there or not. You should literally be able to find that out. If you got all these sources to know what's going on in Vince McMahon's head, then literally you can call a fucking board member and say, hey, is she on the roster? You can call somebody, hey, does she work there? Call her fucking lawyer, call her her publicist, tweet at her, send her a DM, holler at her on Instagram. You can do anything and say, we reached out to this person and this person said X. That's all you gotta fucking do. And then report X did not respond or X had no comment and leave it at that. That's a report. That's a report. If I ask you a question and you say no comment, that's a comment. No comment is a comment. No comment. We reached out to Sasha Banks. She said no comment. End of. You don't have to speculate. Here's what we're hearing from people that we talk to. I don't give a fuck who you talk to. If you're not talking to the principal people in power or the principal people in the fucking story, I don't give a fuck. Why should I care that you talk to the cameraman? Hell, I don't see Sasha Banks here, Sean Ross Sapp, so maybe you should just tell us that Sasha Banks doesn't work here anymore. I heard that Sasha Banks doesn't work here anymore. Like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? Who are you talking to? It doesn't make sense to me. And it can't make sense to anybody. I'd have spent way too much time on this. I spent way too much time. This review's gonna be long as shit now. I just can't believe he did that shit, bro. Like, they literally got people out here just tweeting their asses off. I'm just tweet. And I'm like, bro, there is no confirmation. There's nothing to discuss yet. There's literally nothing. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what kind of negotiations, deliberations, or whatever. We don't know. If you say we reached out to Sasha Banks' lawyers and they said we are pursuing the termination of this contract, then you could put that out there and say, this is what Sasha Banks' lawyers said. Okay, I can't argue with that. You talk to her lawyers. I can't argue if you talk to her. But you're talking about our sources. Who the fuck are your sources? And why should I just trust you just because you are you? That's literally trust me, bro shit. I promise I'm going to end this subject. I got to get off it. This shit making me sweat. I'm fucking mad now. Okay, let's get on to SmackDown. Finally. I promise I'm not going to mention the wrestling media for the rest of the show. All right, Riddle starts the show. He's talking about before he kicks Roman in the head, he wants to go down memory lane. They do a video package, which was not necessary. He's talking about his friend Randy watching at home. Wished him well on his operation. Says he's going to miss him, that he loves Randy. This is the biggest match of his career. He's dedicating it to Randy. And that he wanted to hear Randy's theme, and they played voices. I said that he was overdoing it on the Randy Orton stuff. He was certainly overdoing it on the Randy Orton stuff. I get that's the storyline, but at the same time, I want to see more fiery, pissed off Riddle. Not, too much. It's just too much. All right. I get where we're going here, but it was too much. We should have at some point Riddle. He should be a missile, point and shoot. Like, we know why he's doing it already. And he could say this, you're dedicating this to Randy. And, because Randy, it was put on the shelf by the Shield or whatever. The Shield. That's the bloodline. And, now I'm going to put Roman Reigns on the shelf. So the main event of this show, Riddle versus Roman Reigns. Excellent match. The stipulation going in. If Riddle loses, he can't challenge for the title again. Of course, he wins the title if he wins the match. Fantastic match. Really give these guys credit. The crowd was into it every single moment. And they did a great job of making Riddle look like a legitimate contender. The floating bro, absolutely fantastic move. Really, really, really dope move. And he hit that thing 2 or 3 times on Roman. Pretty good. He mixed in some of Randy's moves. Hell, even Roman did a Randy move. He did the back slam on the table, and he talked some trash to Randy about how this is his show and this is his world and all that stuff. And they went through a couple of commercial breaks. These guys really worked hard. It was physical. It was great. The finish came after an RKO, which Roman kicked out of. Riddle did a springboard and a mid-air spear. It was a little weird, though. Like, it wasn't flat. Riddle didn't land flat. He landed on his lower back. I'm pretty sure that sucked, because the bump wasn't particularly good. Roman really cinched up on the pin, won the match. Great match. Can't say enough good things about the match. Riddle had proven himself that he's a proper player with the right gimmick and with the right storyline, and that he can get over. And I think the people are invested in him. And I think the people are ready for him. I think we should move him towards the Money in the Bank. I know that's kind of weird because he just lost and he can't challenge for the title again. I would still consider putting the Money in the Bank on him. I know a lot of people want Seth Rollins, but I'm thinking maybe Riddle is the right guy for the Money in the Bank. And it's the push. It's not necessarily winning the title yet. He's got a year to win the title. But I'm saying just kind of carrying the briefcase. He could be very interesting with that. He can make that fun. And you could jazz that up and they could sell customized briefcases and all that kind of stuff. They can make it fun with Riddle as the Money in the Bank winner. I think that he's in the right spot. I think they just have to trim away some of the comedy. He needs to be a lot more serious. So after Roman wins, he says that there's no one left. He wrecked everybody and leaves. Minneapolis, acknowledge me. And he's on his way out, and I'm thinking, they're about to end this show and nobody's going to come out to challenge him. And instead we get Brock Lesnar. And I felt the internet groan before I even looked, because I groaned. I was like, oh, no. God damn. And Brock got in the ring. He took his hat off to Roman and offered a handshake, and Roman was reluctant, to say the least, to shake his hand. Then Brock beat him up. Then he beat up the Usos. And I was like, oh no! I thought maybe they was going to work together. And I was going to say, that'd be interesting. Brock and Roman as a team, or Brock acknowledging Roman, that could be fun. Crowd ate it up. Crowd was there for it. Of course, Brock is a hometown boy. He's from Minnesota. Even though he's from actually North Dakota, but he went to college in Minnesota. And it was Brock beating up guys. But I was left criticizing this segment. When I should have been happy Brock was back, I was sitting there thinking to myself, hey, wouldn't it be nice if Brock literally did anything else? Like, we got enough Brock and Roman matches to last us a lifetime. This Brock and Roman thing, it just seems to be the song that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend. It's a song that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend. It's like, what the fuck else do we have to talk about here? We fought over the title. We fought over blood. We fought over Heyman. We fought over everything. We've done babyface Roman. We've done heel Roman. We've done babyface Brock. We've done heel Brock. What more do we have left? Really, what more do we have left? Now, a lot of people, and I'm actually going to give them some credit when it comes to this, has seen that this is kind of a smash glass in case of emergency situation. Where, now, Brock was coming back anyway. I don't know what people thought. He was coming back anyway. But I think putting him in this position is likely because of the Randy injury. But I would have liked to see Brock beat up Riddle. I think that would have been a lot more interesting. Not just because, the Brock-Riddle match, but as a way of Brock saying, you wasted everyone's time. Look at what you did. All that time you spent calling me out, talking about how you were going to kick my ass and you were going to retire me and all that horse shit. And you had a chance to beat Roman Reigns and you failed. You dedicated the match to your best friend and you failed. I'm going to get rid of you. You said you was going to retire me. No, brother, I'm going to retire you. And then he beats the shit out of Riddle and destroys Riddle. That would have been a lot more interesting. Because at least it would have been like, oh, he doesn't want to fight Roman again. But at least in this situation, now we're looking at it like he wants to fight Roman again. This was the problem with him and Brock. With him and Brock, he is Brock. With him and Goldberg. If you'd have did something different with Goldberg, I don't think people would have been too upset. But when you only bring people in to be main event guys, it's a problem. It shows that your roster is thin. And I know WWE's roster is thin. It's been exposed now. Now all the injuries, now people would say it was already thin. But I'd say you look at these injuries, the injuries are starting to pile up. And the injury bug in the wrestling business is really bad right now. Now, to contradict myself a little bit, I did say, and I do say, Brock needs to work with other people. He just can't keep working with Roman. He just can't keep working with the same people he's already worked with before. At the same time, I haven't watched Rampage in forever. And I watched, and I remember sitting there looking at Jon Moxley versus Dante Martin. And I said, this sucks. And I hadn't even got through the match yet. But I was like, I don't understand what Dante Martin is supposed to get out of this. Because we know he's going to lose going in. Unless he gets very, very, very close to beating Jon Moxley, he's not really going to benefit that much from it. And to be quite honest, you only really benefit from the losses that change your character. You don't benefit from losses where you just get into the ring and lose. If that was the case, why did the 1-2-3 Kid ever beat Razor Ramon? The thing about Razor beating or losing to the 1-2-3 Kid is it changed both characters. It changed 1-2-3 Kid into a legitimate contender. Somebody who, right situation, he could get you. But it also changed Razor Ramon. And that's why it was so iconic. Because the loss changed Razor. the other heels were making fun of Razor for losing. This is the part of the story that everybody forgets. And this is the reason why I always talk about the greatness of the new generation era. There's so much stuff that happens in the new generation era that you guys don't pay attention to. Ted DiBiase. This led into the SummerSlam match between Razor and Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase was making fun of Razor for losing. He called him a loser and all that kind of stuff. And the crowd was like, he got caught, he got busted. And even Razor had to be like, yeah, I lost. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, why are you fucking with me for losing? And people started to kind of see that Razor wasn't mad about losing. He wasn't a sore loser. He was an honorable dude. He stood up. He was like, yeah, I lost. But you can't beat me. And there was some really good stuff there because, for starters, it's non-traditional booking. Almost nowhere would you have seen a guy that was being built like Razor Ramon lose to a guy like the 1, 2, 3 Kid, lose to a job guy. Clean, by the way, clean, no gimmicks. You never would have saw that before. The second thing is, you probably never would have saw him try to take the Kid under his wing after that. Say, look, you beat me. Now you're my buddy. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to look after you. So if you had, through the entirety of 94, you had, Razor and the 1, 2, 3 Kid working as a tag team, working as a buddy team, until the 1, 2, 3 Kid turned heel on them and joined the $1 Million Corporation. Notice what I said there, right? Ted DiBiase made fun of Razor Ramon for losing to the 1, 2, 3 Kid. That led to the Razor Ramon babyface turn and Razor Ramon versus Ted DiBiase and Ted DiBiase's last match at SummerSlam 1994? 93. It was 93. SummerSlam 93. Ted DiBiase's last match. Razor Ramon beats Ted DiBiase. Razor Ramon then later befriends the 1, 2, 3 Kid who beat him, who Ted DiBiase was making fun of him for losing to. 2 years later, Ted DiBiase recruits the 1, 2, 3 Kid into the $1 Million Corporation. 1, 2, 3 Kid turns on Razor Ramon. They go through 95 and 96 feuding with each other. See, y'all, the new generation sucks. Like, this is a 3 fucking year story. It started in 1993. And it didn't end until Razor left in 96. He had a full fucking character arc. That's the kind of shit that we should be doing when you have a guy who is made. And Razor Ramon, people were cheering the character already. That's why he turned on babyface. Because Razor was getting cheered as a heel. So they flipped him. Made sense at the time. It was the right thing to do. So that's the only way for these things to work. If you're going to beat somebody, it should change them in some way. And that was supposed to be what they were trying to do with Wheeler Yuta, where they were going to have Wheeler Yuta lose, and it was going to change his character and show that he was tougher or rougher or whatever. It failed because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just, mimicking shit that they saw on TV. They saw Stone Cold Steve Austin bleed in the middle of the ring and not give up, and they figured, if we do that, we'll get the same reaction. It's like, no, you're missing all the context. That's like me saying I can write Star Wars by just saying, Luke, I am your father. I don't know fuck all about Star Wars. I don't know shit about Star Wars. I've never even seen Star Wars. But I can't just write that line into a movie and then say, look, I'm mimicking Star Wars. That doesn't make sense. What leads up to that moment is what makes it an iconic moment. It's lost on me because I haven't seen it. But for all these people who claim to be fucking historians and shit, you're supposed to learn the context, learn why the shit works. You don't just put guys in the ring with other guys and say, he's over, he's going to get in the ring and they're going to work together and get over. It's like, no, you have to change his character. And that's really what I wanted for Brock to do for somebody else. For him to get in there and be the catalyst to force somebody else to step their game up. That's really what I wanted. And I thought Riddle would have been perfect for that. That Brock could have gave him the lecture about Riddle running off at the mouth and saying all this stupid shit, especially all the stuff he was saying when he was in NXT, all the stuff about Goldberg and him disrespecting Brock and disrespecting Goldberg and all that shit. And, you know, now he's been this big cupcake for Randy Orton. And he's like, what happened to that kid? What happened to all that dude who was talking all that shit? You know, now that I'm kind of free from my obligations of being the champion and carrying this place, how about you come retire me? Do all that shit you said you was going to do. You know, come do that shit. That would have forced Riddle to change. He couldn't be, how do I call him, skateboard Riddle? What's the shits? You know what I mean. He couldn't do all that. Like, bro, that wouldn't work. Brock could eat him alive. He'd have to have an harder edge. You know, that's what we need to be looking at. That's the kind of shit you need to do right now because your roster is thin. You know, as far as who should have wrestled Roman, you know what my answer is going to be. He did the WrestleMania 38. He did the WrestleMania 37. He was Intercontinental Champion. He was United States Champion. He was in the Hurt Business. He's the Almighty. He did the thing with Leo Rush. He was ECW champion. He's in the Battle of the Billionaires. He almost beat John Cena. It is the Almighty Bobby Lashley. Let's fucking go. That's who should be wrestling Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, not Brock Lesnar. But I don't get what I want because I'm just a guy on YouTube. All right, moving on. We got a video package for Corbin and Moss. Corbin defeated Moss. Moss defeated Corbin in a last laugh match, which was basically just a no disqualification match from what it saw. There was nothing special about it. After the match, Moss, who was in his hometown, a hometown guy, won, for Christ's sake, in WWE. Moss laughed at Corbin while he was down. That was okay. It was all right. Later, Corbin gets off the mat, you know, from his 3-second tan, and he goes over to Pat McAfee. And he says that when I was down and out and I didn't have any money, you called me bum ass Corbin. You called me bum ass Corbin. Then I got rich and I started being successful. And you still make fun of me. You talk about my show, you talk about my matches. And he's kind of like, you know, kind of tired of that. Kind of tired of you fucking with me, Pat McAfee. And he says, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, I'm going to drag your ass. And Pat McAfee's just sitting there looking at him like, okay, okay. So then Corbin turns around, takes a couple of steps. Pat McAfee then takes his headset off and gets a chant started. Bum ass Corbin. Gets people to chant bum ass Corbin. Then he says that all these people, you know, should laugh Corbin out of the arena. And then he kind of leads people in laughing at Corbin. Daring Corbin to do something about it. I swear I thought Corbin was going to attack him later. But he didn't. And, but that's what we're building to. We're building to Corbin versus Pat McAfee. That sounds like it could be fun. You know, Pat McAfee is incredibly over with the audience. They love the guy. So it works. You know, Corbin is a heat magnet. McAfee, great baby face. I can see this being a big match for SummerSlam that they can really get into. You know, saving Pat McAfee matches for big shows works for me. I'm okay with that. We do need more star power. Pat McAfee has a huge following. And people seem to be very open to him wrestling. And I'm good with it. You know, not a big fan of Corbin. I would rather have somebody else in this spot. But Corbin, I'll take it. As long as we get Pat McAfee, I'll take it. And the storyline makes sense. Because it's finally somebody standing up to people on commentary. Because people on commentary are just reckless. Like, you know, guys used to get real reckless on commentary. You know, like Jerry the King Lawler used to get reckless on commentary. So it's okay. Like, and it proves that the wrestler actually follows the product. And it makes sense for Corbin, who's a guy who, you know, his ego is pretty much everything. He pays attention to what people are saying about him. So I was good with that. You know, that ought to be fine. The Street Profits, talking about they cashing in their chips at Money in the Bank. All right. Sure. Whatever. Jinder Mahal and Shanky were defeated by the New Day because Shanky was still dancing and he was dancing to the trombone. I was like, Lord have mercy. For starters, the New Day is dead in the water. You can't find them. You think Brock and Roman are boring? Try the New Day on for size. I mean, I can't tell you what month it is as far as New Day. Nothing changes. The gear is the same. The characters are the same. They're the same two guys. They just bounce around, playing the trombone. You would think they would have brought in new instruments by now, a new color scheme, something. But there's nothing. It has not changed anything about the New Day in forever. And anything they do change, they just immediately put it right back. Like they gave Xavier Woods his own theme song, and he was the king of the ring, then they reverted it all right back. Same thing with Big E, right back. Kofi Kingston, right back. Nothing's allowed to change. It's encased in fucking amber. It's boring. You know, it's stale. They need to do something different. They need to do something new. And Shanky's dead in the water. He just doesn't know it yet. You know, he thinks that he's going to get over with this, but it has no second gear. There's no second life to having a dancing gimmick. There is no second chance after the dancing gimmick. You're dead. Dancing gimmick equals death. That's how it works. You're dead. Natalya cut a promo, said that she's going to make Ronda Rousey submit because the sharpshooter is the best submission in wrestling. It seems like they're really building to something with this Ronda Rousey submission game stuff, because this is very similar to what they were doing with Charlotte, where they did the Charlotte armbar versus figure eight thing. Now they're doing it with Natalya. They're building to something, clearly. They're going to keep with this submission theme probably until they get to Shayna Baszler. And I'm guessing that's where we're going with this eventually. Not tonight, though, considering Shayna Baszler lost to Raquel Rodriguez and in a Money in the Bank qualifier. So Raquel Rodriguez is in the Money in the Bank. Shotzi and Aaliyah will wrestle next week to see who will get in the Money in the Bank. Interesting. I think it should be Shotzi, personally. I wouldn't trust Aaliyah around the ring in a ladder. I think Shotzi is probably far more interesting, but she's also got back problems too. So I don't know. Did you do that? She's very young, but she's also a daredevil, and she's been spending her entire indie career jumping off shit. So is that what you do? You put her in a position where she jumps off shit on pay-per-view? I mean, it'd be the best time for her to really get in there and jump off some shit. But she might fuck around and get over as a babyface doing that. You know? So you have to ask the questions. I personally would put Shotzi in it. I think Shotzi deserves to push. That's just me personally. Lacey Evans was on commentary. She didn't really say too much. They still positioning her as the front runner, even though I think probably the front runner should be, again, Liv Morgan. But it is what it is. There's more vignettes for the Viking Raiders, as if anybody gives a fuck. Drew McIntyre and Adam Pearce were in the ring. Sheamus was back there with Butch and Ridge Holland. I guess Ridge Holland isn't hurt anymore. Butch is apparently a dog. Stay! Oi! Little Butch, my little fella, you need to stay in this still. Sit still. Hey, still. And he goes out there to argue his point about this Money in the Bank thing, him and Drew McIntyre. They go out there to argue their points about why they should be in the Money in the Bank match. Drew McIntyre is absolutely intimidating Adam Pearce, which is not, it is what it is. Sheamus says that he doesn't care about any statistics, that he actually cashed in the Money in the Bank before, while Drew McIntyre has been cashed in on. And then if you want somebody to be a successful cash in, you should let old Shamey get it. Adam Pearce said it was official. Sheamus was in. Sheamus then immediately took the opportunity to start gloating and trash talking Drew McIntyre until Drew McIntyre beat him up. Then Adam Pearce put Drew McIntyre in too. And I said, what the fuck was the point of the qualifying match? What was the point of the qualifying match? They didn't have to qualify. Nobody qualified. Nobody should be in. What's going on here? This is stupid. But they neither one of them lost. They're like, well, neither one of them won. The point is to put fucking winners in here. If you were going to do this, why not just have Drew McIntyre versus Drew Gulak in a fucking qualifying match, and or have Drew McIntyre versus Ridge Holland in a qualifying match, and have Sheamus versus Drew Gulak, and they both qualify. that be that. You can still have them fighting and arguing because Drew McIntyre beat, one of Sheamus's minions to get into the Money in the Bank match. How about that? That would have been perfectly fine. But no. Instead, they had a qualifying match and nobody lost. Nobody won, rather. Stupid. Bad booking. Undisciplined booking, too. Undisciplined writing. I've talked about undisciplined writing before. You don't set any standards. You don't set any rules. You just do whatever because it's a fictional medium. And then once you do that, people don't trust the internal logic of your organization. They can't connect to it. I could do like a long form thing on that. I'll do that later. Sami Zayn is hanging out outside of Roman Reigns' dressing room when Kayla Braxton with her freckled face. It put a lot of makeup on her to cover her freckles, by the way. I don't know why. The freckles are actually kind of cute. So, and they're unique. They make her look different. Anyway, Sami Zayn is hanging out outside. He doesn't like being blamed for that why Roman has to wrestle tonight. He wasn't a fan of that. And said that he's the honorary Uso. He's the only one. There are no other honorary Usos. And even though he hasn't spoken to any member of the bloodline, he's sure everything is fine. Everything's great. I expected them to murder Sami Zayn tonight, and they didn't do it, which tells me that they're trying to save the murder of Sami Zayn for a different time. It's coming, but they're literally saving it for something. I don't know why. They could have just killed him tonight, and just to get the heat, Maybe he's going to have to fuck up something else, and then they're going to beat him up again. He might cost the Usos the tag team titles or something like that, and then he's really going to get murdered. Sami Zayn will be wrestling Shinsuke Nakamura in a qualifying match next week. I'm guessing Nakamura is going to win that match. I mean, that's just a guess. I'm just guessing Nakamura is going to win that match. Max Dupree is not going to bring in the Maximum Male models again this week. He says it is because of the inappropriate lighting that Adam Pearce has provided for them, and it doesn't match the soft and sexiness that they're looking for, and that Adam Pearce and his ineptitude is going to deny the fans the titillation of their guilty pleasures, as he says so very, very close to his face. He making us wait for this thing. They really milking the hell out of this thing. It can lead nowhere but disappointment. Like, it literally can't lead anywhere but disappointment. That's the sad thing, right? Is that nothing's good is going to come out of this. That's why they're milking it so hard. They're building anticipation and building anticipation and building anticipation. Hopefully it'll get over. That's what they're thinking. But we already know it's going to be a wet fart in church the moment they have somebody come out there and they don't look right. These sans bitches. It's some weirdo that you don't know. They're going to be looking like, huh? Who? What? Why? Why is he a model? And it's going to be over. But give Eli Drake some credit. LA Knight some credit. Max Dupree. He's doing a great job. As far as promos is concerned, he's doing a great job. Hopefully they swerve us and he's the first of his own clients and he gets to wrestle on SmackDown. That would be excellent. But I still think it's going to be pretty deadly. Because he said they. There's certainly more than one. So that ought to be nice. Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser cut a promo, and Kaiser said that the Intercontinental Championship belongs to Gunther, and said that the Intercontinental Championship was won by a French Canadian in a South American tournament, and the greatest Intercontinental Champions have all been international. But it has been besmirched, which is, William Regal's favorite word. It has been besmirched by Ricochet and all these Americans who are all flash and no substance. But the prestige will be restored. And an American will never be Intercontinental Champion again. We're going hard foreign heel with Gunther now. Which I know a lot of people are not going to like. I know it's going to be politically incorrect to have a foreign heel in a traditional sense, like an old school foreign heel. But for an old school wrestler like Gunther, it seems to fit. And it seems to fit that you're just leaning into it because this is what the crowd wants. The crowd wants to chant USA, USA, USA at Gunther. They were not going that route. They were trying to do Imperium. You know, the match is sacred. And people are just looking at this guy as like, oh, he's from Austria. USA, USA. I don't care what it is on the map. USA. It could be in the USA, but USA. You know, like we don't care at this point. You know, you have to you have to go with the audience, man. Like, you know, the audience is doing their thing. You know, this is working, and they want to rock with it. But it seems like there's still elements of Imperium there, of course. You know, the mat is sacred. They care about prestige and honor and things like that. Not really great with Gunther's promo skills, though. I am the Intercontinental Champion. I'm like, what? Did you have a brain fart? Did you malfunction? Did you lose too much? Did you lose too much weight? You know, you probably need a little bit more water around the brain or something like that. But I love Gunther and Kaiser. This works for me. Unfortunately, you know, these guys are being subjected to the foreign menace. But I love the foreign menace. I want it to be brought back. So I'm all in. I know a lot of people are going to complain about it eventually, because they're going to say to themselves, oh, it's not fair, it's xenophobic. And I'm going to say, is it working? And if it's working, let it work. We need to get some more people over, dog. You know, he's going to be wrestling Ricochet next week. He's going to beat Ricochet again. What's Ricochet going to do after that? Who knows? Float away. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Let his contract run out. You know, hopefully he gets a second chance in AEW. I don't know. But this SmackDown was pretty cut and dry. There's only 4 matches. But the main event was lengthy and it was fun. Got a return with Brock Lesnar, which could have been fun if he was not wrestling Roman Reigns again. Nobody really got over on this show. Like, you know, there was no new stars made. Riddle had a great physical performance, but it was all bogged down with his Randy Orton fangirling. You know, we need to get away from that. So that was it. SmackDown was okay. Main event was awesome, though. It was a one-match show. Let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.